What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I know it's been a really long time, but I am back. And today we're going to talk about what it's like to daily drive a ZL1 1LE. Primarily, I'm making this video because I get asked this question a lot on what it's like to daily drive one. And I think it's because a lot of people are in the market for a regular ZL1, but they also see that the market on the ZL1 1LEs have gotten a little bit softer. So I think they're trying to see if it's worth spending a little bit extra money for a stiffer suspension and the track pack. So I've had this car for about a year and I've put about 10,000 miles. So I feel like I could give a pretty good owner's perspective on what it's really like to daily drive it. So let's go ahead and take the car out and let's see what it's like. So I get a ton of questions about what it's like daily driving a ZL1 1LE and whether they should look into purchasing one. And I usually just reply back with, yes, you should absolutely purchase one because it's one of the best cars that I've ever had. But they should definitely go ahead and test drive and feel it because the ride quality is not the greatest thing. And that kind of, deters people from wanting it as a daily driver or not most of the time. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? Everybody has like their own personal preference on what's comfortable to them and what's not, and what's bearable and what's not. Like for me, I've had this car for a year and 10,000 miles. Sure, it was rough like the first week or two of having the car and just kind of being used to it. But once I got used to it, it really didn't bother me anymore, to the point where I don't even think twice about it. Only time I do think about it is when I go over a couple of big potholes and it just sounds like the car's braking, but the car is fine. The car could take quite a bit of abuse and it won't really break down anywhere. So the ride quality is not the greatest thing, but at the same time, like, again, I think you just get used to it. So some people think that the ZL1 1LEs have the same exact suspension as a ZL1, and that's when I tell them that the suspension system is actually completely different. The ZL1s have the Magna suspension. These have the spool valve suspension system, whereas it's handles better, but it kind of beats you up a little bit in return, right? So I always tell them that they need to go ahead and drive it, not to feel like the power of the car, because although it's great, that's not really what they should be looking after. They should be looking after whether or not they're going to be able to daily drive it, if that's what their intention is. I've been daily driving it. I really don't have any issues with it. Again, I think it's one of those things where you just kind of get over it. And in order to make the suspension or the ride quality a little bit better, I did swap out the OEM Goodyear Supercar 3R tires, because those are our compound tires that do extremely well when they're heated and they're warm, and especially on the track, they're phenomenal tires. But out on the street, one, they wear down super fast, and number two, they don't do well in the cold, and they don't do well in wet conditions also. So the first day I actually bought this car, it was nice and sunny. On the drive home, I got the tires warmed up. It was great. I was like, oh man, these tires are amazing. They're super sticky. And then the next morning, it was actually super cold and rainy. That's just how Texas weather is sometimes. So when it was my time to go to work, I took the car out, and then immediately I was kind of like skating around the 3-lane roads and whatever, and I quickly realized that these tires are not suitable for street daily driving. So I ordered a set of Michelin Pilot 4S tires. They've been on the car ever since. They're phenomenal tires on the street as well as the track. Not as good as our compound tires on the track, but they're definitely doable for an amateur guy like me. They're much better in terms of wear. They're much better in the cold, and they're much better in wet conditions also. So if you're looking at one of these cars and you want to daily drive it and the ride is okay with you, I would definitely go ahead and order a set of these Michelin 4Ss. That way it softens the ride a little bit for you, and it makes it a whole lot better. The second thing that I wanted to talk about is visibility when it comes to daily driving a ZL1 1LE. Although I've gotten used to it. When I first got the car, this actually took me longer to get used to than the ride quality. And it's primarily because these A, B, and C pillars on the car are extremely thick. I'm not quite sure why they're so thick, but it kind of, like you have glasses everywhere. Like there's windows here, obviously the windshield, the side, and then the passenger seats have 2 windows and then there's a rear view or the back window. And they're pretty decent sized windows, but you just can't really see anything out of it. So I set my side view mirrors so far out that I'm seeing like 2-3 lanes next to me, because otherwise you're gonna have blind spots everywhere. And if this car didn't come with blind spot monitoring, I probably wouldn't even have looked at this car, because it's gonna be extremely tough trying to like look back next to you to see if there's a car in your blind spot. It's a big car. You think people would just kind of like stay away from you, but it's not really the case. Even now, I find sometimes that people are in my blind spot and I can't really see them all that well. But besides those 2 things, I really don't have any complaints about the car. When I'm looking at a daily driver, I look at 3 things, right? I look at how comfortable it is, what kind of creature comforts this has, and then good gas mileage. This car does 2 out of those 3 things extremely poorly, but I would still pick this car every single day of the week to go out and go anywhere, because although it doesn't have a great ride quality and it doesn't do gas mileage super well, it has got Apple CarPlay that I love, a heated steering wheel, vented and heated seats, really good AC in the car. It gives me a super nice LCD display in the instrument cluster. I get memory seats, And then I also have a heads-up display that gives me like my music information, GPS, my RPMs, how many G's I'm pulling, which I probably don't need for daily driving, but it gives me all of that. So although there are those two shortcomings, very minor things, I think the pros outweigh the cons. So I absolutely think that daily driving a ZL1 is ZL1 1LE is completely doable, possible. And if you're looking into purchasing one of these cars for doing just that, I think you should highly consider one. But again, definitely make sure to go ahead and test drive one. I know this was an extremely short video, but I hope you guys liked it. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, and if you have any questions about anything related to this car, please feel free to leave those in the comments below. Thanks guys.